My name is Rich Norby. I'm a corporate research fellow at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee. I've been there my whole career, going back to 1981, right after grad school. Most of the time there I've worked on issues related to global change, ecosystem responses to climate change, and especially forest responses to elevated CO2. At times I variously have called myself a tree physiologist or a physiological ecologist or just an ecologist, or I don't know what I am, but those are the things I work on. I'm also editor of New Phytologist and on the board of trustees, which is an activity I really enjoy. I enjoy the community of people involved in New Phytologist, and I really enjoy being in a situation where I can help influence plant science in certain ways. Also, I just really enjoy being associated with a journal that is a not-for-profit journal. It's independent, owned by the trust, so we get all of the money from the journal goes back into science. I really enjoy being associated with that. Well, I've been interested in science for, I guess, about as long as I can remember as a kid. I'm probably a product of a big increase in science education that happened in the U.S. after the Russians put the Sputnik up in, I don't know, it was 56 or 1957, something like that. I remember going out with my parents and looking up in the sky and seeing that little dot. And of course, that generated a big increase in science education. And I was probably a product of that. I had all the pictures of the astronauts on my wall and played with crystal radio, and I had a microscope. I never was any good, still not, with a microscope. Big thing I really enjoyed was a chemistry set, and I kept with that for a long time. I went to college with the notion as a chemistry major with the expectation I'd be a chemist and work for a big chemical company after grad school. Somewhere along the line in college is when I became interested in plant science, so a lot later than probably most of the people in the field. And I don't know, I'd never really had much background of playing outside, but hiking and so on with my family. But I got associated with that in college and then started getting jobs in the Forest Service and so on. And that's where I picked up an interest and decided to pursue plant science, especially forestry. So the important topics that I'm most interested in right now in our research program is really pursuing below-ground responses, root production and so on. We've found in an awful lot of, whether it's responses to elevated CO2 or responses to warming, that there's an awful lot that goes on below ground that's much harder to study, and it's actually a lot of times where the real action is. So we really work pretty hard to increase the data available on root responses. And as part of that, one of the approaches we really want to explore and develop a lot more is the connection between model and data. So I'm not a modeler myself, but I do work a lot with modelers, and I think that's really important. It's also something we really want to develop in New Phytologist. So that's a theme that I think is really important across the sciences now. The area of I work in, I really hope, is benefiting society because global change, climate change, is a big, serious issue for all of humanity, and we really can't make informed decisions about how to deal with it without good data on and good predictions of the course of climate change and ecosystem response to it. So that's always what has driven my work ever since starting the job. That's why I like working at a national laboratory, because we are supposed to be working on questions of national interest. So I hope it has an influence in that way. That's our objective anyway. People ask me about role model, and I guess as Popeye said, I am what I am, and that's what I am. I don't really try to fashion myself after someone else, but now there's plenty of people who've really inspired me, both in science and outside of science. One person that always comes to mind when I think of sort of like heroes is that one guy, young man in China who stood in front of the tanks in Tiananmen Square. It's tremendous moral courage on that as a very, very important symbolic act. And we don't know who he is. His doing it without any self-aggrandizement. I just really appreciate that, you know, doing a personal commitment without doing it for sort of self-gratification, I guess. There's different aspects that I really like about my job. In the technical level, you know, I really enjoy getting a data set, just an Excel sheet with a bunch of numbers, and looking for patterns about how a plant is growing or how CO2 is affecting the plant or something, and seeing that pattern in the numbers. I usually drop everything when someone sends me a new data set, and even if I'm supposed to be editing a new Phytologist paper, you know. But that's the technical thing I really like about my job. But there's also, you know, really social aspects that I enjoy. You know, especially now I've been traveling a lot of different, working a lot of different biomes, and have established friends across the world, really. I maybe see them just once or twice a year. And I really enjoy that sort of sociology of science. And, you know, new Phytologists actually really increases that a lot too, because we have just a really good group of people who work as editors and in the central office. And it's a nice community of people to work with, and I really enjoy that. I also really get a tremendous satisfaction out of seeing how sometimes I can influence the careers of early career folks and people I've worked with, and I get a lot of satisfaction off that. On the other hand, there's aspects of my job that are not always so good, and of course it's mostly, like most people would say, it's the administrative kind of stuff, and sitting at my desk answering emails instead of you know, being out walking across the tundra or walking through a Amazon rainforest and so on. But, you know, it's a necessary part of the job for sure, but, you know, you put up with it. As I look back on my career, the advice I would give to early career people probably is, don't worry about what other people think about your work. You know, make sure you like it, make sure you are foursquare behind it, but you'll get recognized eventually. Maybe you don't get recognized as fast as you think you should, but, you know, if you do good work, you'll get recognized soon enough. So that's what I would say. Just stick to it, do what you enjoy doing, and forget about what other people think. Where am I going to be in 5 years? Boy, that's a good question. But, you know, I have a little cartoon on my door under my nameplate. It's a grown-up asking a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the answer is, I don't know, 60 at least. So I like that. I passed 60, I'm afraid, but I just want to keep going. I've never really thought about what I'm going to do 5 years from now. I just keep doing what I'm doing. A lot of the things I really enjoy doing are enhanced by the science I'm in. I really enjoy traveling, seeing new places, seeing new ecosystems and so on. And of course, my job has really made it possible to do that. So that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I want to continue traveling and seeing new places.